The snowing tree. I have read several stories related to my situation and saw many great insights. I too am worried and would like to share my situation to see what you all think. We have been married 18 years, most of it happily. We generally have a good relationship. 2 years ago, we moved cross-country. It was difficult for her leaving family and friends. She's had difficulty making new friends since moving here. Except one. She is a healthcare professional who works in a hospital setting. My job sometimes requires me to work nights. At her new job, she befriended a male doctor. He's nice enough of a guy. He's married and has 3 children. We have been out with them or social gatherings and have been to their home or family parties. There's nothing too special about him as far as looks, just an average guy and even kind of nerdy. Being the one who pays the bills, I review our cell phone bill and I view the activity. I noticed a lot of text messages between the two, mostly during work hours. It is understandable that they text while at work because they need to communicate their location, what they're doing next, etc. Just to be sure, I looked at the text messages on her phone and noticed they also talk about where to go for lunch. When I asked her about this, she says often a group goes out together for lunch. What really got me curious was that she first said that she never goes to lunch alone with him, but then later said she rarely goes to lunch alone during the same conversation. I sort of blew it off, but that concern was still in the back of my head. As I went about to regular life paying the bills, I noticed several messages between them during non-working hours. What really had me concerned was that she sent him photos while she was out of town, he wasn't with her. Out of concern for our marriage, I again took a look at her text messages when I got the opportunity. I saw that the pictures were of food that she was eating and they spoke a lot about restaurants. I never knew my wife to be a foodie, but she sure appeared like it. They would send restaurant recommendations back and forth, pictures of menus and food, etc. Normally, that would not be a concern. But she sent quite a few messages while she was out of town but did not text me. When I asked her about this, she said that she didn't think I would be interested in the type of food she was eating. This is when the hairs started standing up on the back of my neck. She was sharing an interest with a male co-worker outside of normal business hours. I had a conversation with her about him where I stated my concern about his intentions. I almost felt bad, because he's a super nice guy and is quite unassuming. I even joked with her that if she were to have an affair with him, she would have a great cover because I would never suspect it. My wife says that he would never do anything because he loves his wife too much. Does this mean they're talking about each other's marriages? She says he's like a brother and just friends. She also got upset about the move and said that he's the only friend she has. Man, it made me feel bad and like a jerk. I felt like I wasn't allowing her to have her own friends, but my concern remains that it's a guy. The reason this bothers me is because throughout our marriage, my wife has always had the opinion that men and women cannot be just friends, that something physical is always possible. My wife is the jealous type, and I thought this was to prevent me from talking to other women. But now, I'm confused. I even texted that to her, what happened to men and women can't be just friends. She did not address that comment and blamed my other stressors for me being upset and that I was picking on her. I kept quiet for a while after that to see what would happen. I noticed the amount of text messages increase. Now, it's not a crazy number like I've seen on other posts here. I would say they shared about 60 to 100 messages per month. My concern was that several of them, sometimes more than half, were during off hours, after work, or during off days. On the most recent bill, I noticed the texts with him outnumbered mine. I did a search for our phone numbers, so I decided to dig a little deeper. We have a family calendar that shows our work schedules. I took the past 3 months' cell phone bills and compared their texting time with working time. Most of the messages were either after hours or off days. Again, these aren't crazy numbers, but there is still concern. For instance, there were 8 messages while I was at work. Not so bad. Another set of messages appeared after I had gone to sleep. The conversation started at 10:53 p.m. and went until 11:26 p.m. I was surely asleep by that time because I had a long day at work. Okay, getting concerned, but there were only about 15 messages exchanged. On a day that I had to work night shift, I slept during the day and there were about 8 messages exchanged while I was asleep. One day I had worked all day and there were about 34 messages exchanged during that time. There were other messages during my sleeping time, but again not crazy numbers. Just a few here and there. I'm thinking I either have cause for concern or she is just not wanting to text him while I'm around so I don't get upset. Now I'm curious to get into the phone and compare the log with the bill to see if there are any deleted messages. I'm sure that would tell me a lot. Other than going out for lunch together, I don't think they actually meet up outside of work unless we're all together. I'm just concerned about the continuous texting. There are some days they don't text at all. So, after reading posts on here about emotional affairs and such, I'm concerned. She has found companionship outside of the marriage, although I do not believe it is physical. Heck, I don't even know if it's emotional. But to me it seems highly inappropriate to be texting each other outside of work. I also looked into signs of emotional affairs, and some are there while others are not. 1 suddenly secretive, not really, unless she's good at it. 2 mentioning the other person repeatedly, well, sometimes. 3 partner seems disconnected, intimacy changes, not so sure about this one either. We often become disconnected due to our busy lives, and intimacy goes up and down. 4 partner becomes critical, sometimes she does criticize me, but not a lot. 5. Your gut tells you something is wrong? Well, yes. I am obviously not at ease about this. Am I being an overprotective jerk? Should I let them be just friends and do nothing? Has anyone else ever experienced this? From what you've read, does it seem like they're just good friends? I do plan on addressing this with her, once again. I want to wait until I can look more into the content of the messages and see if any are deleted. I was thinking about telling her that I often text a female coworker after my wife went to sleep or was away at work and that we share an interest in, fill in the blank, and that we often communicate away from work. After seeing her reaction, I will tell her that I did not do any of those things she did. I believe it's the only way I can get her to understand how I feel about it. So, am I stressing over nothing? Comment, you are her husband and have been for a while. If she was never a foodie before, you can be sure that she's only pretending to be a foodie for him, to gain interest and create something for them to bond over. It keeps things from being boring and signals to him that she has something in common. It's the very stuff of early dating and courting days. Duh, she's doing what a lot of women do, become mutable for the guy they are trying to impress. She may not even be doing it purposely or with real malicious intent. By that I mean that she knows exactly what she's doing, but she may not have any idea of the snowball effect this will and can have. Once you start rolling, your wife may have sworn up and down that men and women couldn't be friends, but she's not really following her own rules, is she? Do as I say, not as I do. Is that a good quality of a parent? Maybe your lives have become too same and career-centric. Maybe you need to take her away somewhere exotic for a while and forbid the use of all phones unless for an emergency. Solidify your bond with her. But nothing good can come from this relationship. It's just the beginning of the end. So, my advice is to act rationally, but nip it in the bud before it goes further. Also, back up all evidence. OP responds, I think what I'm going to do at this point is lay low and watch. I don't have much to go on right now other than my gut instinct and a few text messages. So, I want to gather evidence and present it to her, but I want to catch it before it goes too far. She has an iPhone, and she pretty much gives me free access. She even allowed me to have my thumbprint on it to unlock it. But the phone is always with her and there is not much opportunity for me to look through it. As soon as she wakes up, the phone goes with her into the bathroom. I think she's fine with me looking at it as long as I'm not digging, such as using it to make a call or text the kids with it. I have downloaded an iPhone backup application for the PC that can scan and pull items out of a backup file including SMS, phone calls, etc. I have 2 programs. I need to physically have the phone for this. What I've been telling her is that she has so many good family photos on her phone and I want to put them on the computer so they can be added to our Shutterfly account. That should give me the opportunity to plug it in, let it save the files, and then scan through them later. I will then be able to compare the messages to the cell phone bill. As for VARs, she doesn't talk on the phone much with him. It's mostly texts. I have a Galaxy tablet that I keep in our bedroom. I've downloaded an app called Smart Voice Recorder. It is sound activated and can run in the background. I plug it in and set it aside to record, but I haven't picked up anything yet. I do like the idea of a VAR in the car, though. To keep up with our teenagers, we have an app on our phones called Life 360. It will show you on a map where the family members are. If she is leaving her phone at work and going to lunch, that could be fruitful. I have to admit, it's hard to hear what you're all saying. It appears the consensus is that it's at least an E. I have been seeking counseling lately for other issues, but this one came up. The counselor even called it an E. Ugh. For the other healthcare professional on here, thank you for your input. I understand your point of view. I know there's not much love for my profession right now, but I'll just say it. I'm a police officer, and I have seen people die right in front of me. I have had to tell families their loved one would never come home again. I also have female co-workers, but I don't cross any boundaries with them. I understand that bond, but how does it progress into being a foodie and late-night text messages? I forgot to mention this to you guys. Without prompt, she sent me screenshots of a few text messages with him during a texting argument about this. They were innocent, goofy, whatever. But it's easy enough to hide or delete messages. It's difficult to compare those screenshots to the phone bill because of the timestamps. This was recently, and the contact has gone dark for the past couple of days. My emotions got the best of me, but I'm going to go back to the clueless husband role. I should say that I don't want a divorce. I love her, and she has been there for me and I for her. The kids would be devastated. Once I gather more information, I will confront her with it and ask her to come to counseling with me. Here is another aspect of the relationship I didn't mention before. She is addicted to romance novels. I'm not talking about the lovey-dovey books, but the tie you up and ram my manhood into you type of books. She would read the books in bed and roll over on me eager to sleep together even if I'm almost asleep. At first, I thought it was great. Then I got to thinking, it's not me that's turning her on. She was climbing on me with the scenes and characters of those books in her mind. I dug into her Kindle and Nook and found literally hundreds of erotica books. Being in charge of the money, I saw that she spent about $150 in just 2 months on these books. Keep in mind, these are ebooks which are 1 to 10 at the most or 15 for a box set. We did have a talk about that one. Being 45, I'm feeling old. I don't have it like I used to. There used to be a time women would flirt with me in front of my wife. I'm in pretty good shape, but I'm getting older and I have quite a bit of gray. I have no desire to start over and date again, and I want to keep this marriage together. Update: I got hold of her phone last night and downloaded a backup onto the PC. It saves calls, text messages, photos, etc. There was nothing blaring at me, but who's to say she doesn't clean up? I'm still sifting through it, comparing messages to the cell phone bill. There is one thing that surprised me. Messages prior to 6/29 were deleted, so I have nothing on those. There were messages from other people prior to 6/29, so that raised a red flag. I did this about 4 a.m. and put her phone back in place. Stupid me left her screen on her text conversation with him, so that was the first thing she saw when she woke up. She said that she thought we were past that and was concerned that I was concerned. I remained calm and kind of dumb. It was tempting to dive right in and storm the castle, but I needed to stay calm and let this blow over. Since she was in a talking mood, I did tell her that I did notice messages prior to 6/29 were missing. She hesitated and kind of struggled for an answer, then said she did it to clear room off of her phone. Also, because she had patients' names in it and needed to get them off of there. Do I buy that? Nope. My wife had gone to counseling herself a few weeks ago. She told me that her counselor said that it was okay for her to have male friends, as long as I was okay with it. I hope I didn't slip up and say too much, but I told her that my counselor described it as an E. I mentioned how I never knew she was a foodie after all of these years. She responded, "You know I love food." Yes, but who doesn't? We then touched on the lunch situation. I told her how she once said she had been to lunch with him alone only a few times, and then changed it to only once. She said that she will ride with him to pick up food for the group, and that they had only walked across the street for lunch together once. Do I buy that? Nope. Keep in mind, I'm raging inside and kind of mad at myself for slipping up. But I remain calm. She did offer to go to counseling with me. She also mentioned that she didn't want things to be weird when we're together with them. I told her I don't mind hanging out with them as a couple, but it's all of the late night and off-day texts that bother me. I also talked about how she had always said men and women can't be just friends. Strangely, she said that she only told me that because I was acting inappropriate with a female years ago. We didn't have time to talk long because she had to get to work. I told her we can talk more about it later. With that said, I've probably gathered all of the information I ever will. Fortunately, I was able to capture that data from her phone. Now it's time to sift through it. I think what bothers me is that we both work 12-hour shifts. That means most of our waking hours are with other people. In the short time she isn't at work, they are texting. I have to be honest, a lot of what you all are saying is scaring me. From it could be the start of an IA to it's a full-blown IA and might even be a PA. During our conversation, she didn't defend the friendship, so I hope that is a good sign. She did express concern for how I felt, or at least appeared to. So, it appears the trail will go cold from now on. If anything else raises concerns when I compare messages with cell phone bills and find other deleted messages, I suppose my next step is to mount a VAR under the seat. We only literally had 5 minutes to talk because she had to get to work. We are going to have a more detailed discussion soon. Update 2, we had another short discussion about it yesterday. It was short because we weren't alone much yesterday with high school football games, etc. Our conversation even got cut short, so there's more talking to do. One of the important items of discussion that came up was that she asked me what I want her to do. What I'm asking for. I told her no more texts after working hours, simple as that. No going to lunch alone, because a man and woman who are otherwise attached should not be alone together. To the poster who mentioned that they don't use patient names but room numbers, you're right. I've noticed that after reading what I've found, after reviewing the texts, they do appear platonic, at least on her end. There are a few times where he asks if she wants to go to lunch, but she says, "I'm good," or "I brought something." It does appear a group gets together to order lunch and someone goes to get it. Of course, these are the cleaned up version of the texts. So, I was able to find the deleted text through this software I have. It's sort of messy because the timestamps are weird, so it's difficult to tell exactly when they were sent. The concerning items I found was from him where he said he misses her at work, which I find highly inappropriate. There were also quite a few work-related texts. Still, I don't get why she deleted those texts. Her original story about patient names and saving space on her phone is BS. She had lots of free space, but I'm not finding much in the deleted texts unless they were already overwritten. On the upside, she said she loves me and does not want to do anything that hurts me or makes me feel bad. She also said that she doesn't want things to be awkward when we're in social settings with him and his wife. I told her that I enjoy hanging out with them as a couple, but the non-work texts need to stop. I said that if he's bored or whatever, he needs to text his wife. I basically put a curfew on text messages with him. Nothing after 8 p.m. Anything later than that is simply inappropriate. Again, we didn't get to talk it all the way out. I do have a counseling appointment, and I'm thinking of asking her to come with me so we can put it to rest. Between this texting thing and the romance novels, we need a little extra help. When we do have time for date nights, we avoid talking about anything negative. This avoidance always comes back to bite us when we seem to rehash things when they weren't really addressed in the first place. I will still keep my feelers on, just to be sure. I do want to nip this in the bud as soon as possible. I'd rather be working on improving things rather than writhing in uncertainty. I also realize I need to express my affection more with gestures, notes, gifts, etc. It's so easy to lose track of these things after being married for several years as regular life becomes mundane. I want to see what our counselor says, but this is what I think. My take is that it's an Ia that she's unaware of and is not involved with physical attraction, whatever that fancy word you guys used earlier. I do not think it has gone into a Pia, rather, it appears to be the beginning of an Ia that could have gotten further if I did not intervene. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt for now, unless something else comes up. Don't get me wrong, I'm not done investigating. I certainly am not laying over either. As mentioned before, I don't have much to go on right now. I need more time, and although it will go underground, I can still poke around. I want her to think I'm okay with it and see if she uses that rope to hang herself. Here are my next steps. I am using a makeshift VAR until I can purchase one. I have an old phone, Android, and I downloaded an app called Smart Voice Recorder. It is essentially a VAR app. I will turn off all sound and network services, put it on the bottom of the seat and see what I get. It has about 30+ hours of recording time. I will also purchase an iPhone recovery software. Her iPhone backs up to the cloud, and this software will allow me to download backups without the phone in hand. My hope is there are older backups prior to June 29th. If anyone has any other tech-related tips, please let me know. As for deleted texts, I noticed there was one other contact with missing texts prior to June 29th. It was a female doctor. I have been able to retrieve some of the deleted texts, but nothing crazy. I couldn't shut up anymore and had to take a stance. I confronted her with it, head on. The friendship is over and there is to be no contact outside of work. At all. There are to be no lunches together, no further contact other than seeing patients. We both agreed on these parameters. Although I'm satisfied with laying out the ground rules, my eyes and ears remain open. To quickly answer some questions, they are both on a 7-day stretch of off days. They work 7 on divided by 7 off, and there have been no texts. It could be she either talked to him about it, or it has moved to an app. I have access to her iPad when she's at work, and I will scour through the purchased apps to see what's been downloaded. I know you can hide apps there, but there is a way to unhide them as well. I have 2 VARs working right now. Like I said, I couldn't shut up. Now that I said something, it puts them on alert. I realize that. That means either the marriage is important enough to comply, or she thinks she can continue without getting caught. Like a previous poster said, I'm playing it cool and seeing what plays out. We have a family GPS app that shows where we are, and I haven't seen any strange activity. I realize she can leave her phone behind, but repeated phone calls without an answer would tell me something. Update. As of now, almost all non-work related contact has ceased. A big reason for that was probably the fact that I confronted her about it. Before, there were texts shared on days off checking in on each other. It was a lot of "what are you doing? What are you up to this weekend?" This bothered me, obviously, especially since she has told me in the past that she believes men and women are incapable of being just friends. During that time, I confirmed there were deleted texts. I was able to look at the phone and compared it to the cell bill, and there would be conversations deleted. The texts that remained were innocent, but chatty. Although I should have kept my mouth shut, I confronted her about deleting texts. Her answer was that she wanted to avoid an argument. I realize I should have kept it on the down low, but it was really bothering me. Basically, the non-work texts have completely ceased. It's almost eerie, and there are multiple scenarios playing in my head. She realized it was affecting our marriage and asked him to stop texting on their days off. He would almost always initialize the conversation. His wife found about all of the texting and got angry at him. I did see a text where he wrote, "I'm going through some things," and that it's messy and frustrating. There was some sort of marital trouble on that end, and maybe his wife started poking around too. Something really was happening and they broke it off, or they finally figured out how inappropriate their friendship was. The conversation has moved on to another messaging platform. She has an iPhone, and he's on Android, which means the texts show up on the bill. It could have moved to WhatsApp or some other platform. No matter what the real reason is, it's apparent a conversation about it was made. It's very odd that off-day and weekend texts just completely stopped. Now, there are only a sprinkle of messages during working hours. I have noticed a slight increase in affection lately, but intimacy wasn't an issue before. She just seems happier. I've also noticed he doesn't come up in conversation anymore. Before, there would be little comments about conversations they've had that would come up out of the blue. I would act interested in this and listen, but really watching body language and what's being said. I believe if something was going on, that it was emotional in nature. She never had inexplicably late meetings, missing time, etc., but they did keep tabs on each other and knew a lot about the other. Regardless, I'm sure there is still so much I don't know. I sort of think things went sour with them somehow. At work, several coworkers would pool money together and someone would go get lunch. Last week, she made a comment that he and another male doctor went to get lunch without her. That's a basic rundown of where things stand right now. There are many unknowns, but things got better. I no longer have the feeling of someone else imposing themselves into our marriage. I would get up in the middle of the night, plug her phone into the PC and do a backup. I have the PIN to her phone, but not her iCloud password, so I was able to authorize the PC. I was able to retrieve some deleted texts, but nothing revealing or suspicious. Depending on how long the messages sit on the phone in deleted status, what is retrieved is either jumbled, complete, or completely overwritten. What I did find in deleted and undeleted texts was what I already knew. There are several instances where he says that he misses her when they're not working together. Her response is usually generic, such as I don't like working with these people, or I go back to work next week. We haven't discussed a polygraph. I want to have more definitive proof first. I did suggest marriage counseling, and she was open to it. However, it seems that went to the wayside because it never came up again. As I was writing this, I checked the cell phone bill again and saw 18 texts between them in a 10-minute span yesterday while they were at work. It was a sudden burst, after almost 2 weeks of nothing. I don't want you all to think I'm comfortable and consider the matter settled. It's far from settled. I have been keeping my eyes and ears open while listening to small hints. Here's a new one from the other day. Og has a friend who lives down the street from us, and you literally have to pass our house to get there. I happened to run into Og's friend out in town, and we spoke for a bit. She has met Og's friend in a social setting, so we all kind of know each other. I purposely did not immediately announce to her that I ran into Og's friend to see if it would come in conversation from her. I wanted to see if she and Og had a conversation about it, but it never came up. After a couple of days there wasn't anything from her, so I brought it up. Og and his friend are import car fanatics, so they go around looking at cars on their time off or something like that. Well, she slipped this time. She said that Og stopped by the house in his little import car one day, she didn't say when. I did not respond and turned on my ears. She then caught herself and said that our daughter was home at the time, and also that she, speaking about herself, happened to be outside as he drove by. She was saying it to justify the visit as appropriate. Our daughter was home, and it was just happenstance they ran into each other at our house. I have a Ring doorbell in the front of the house that picks up motion and records video. There were no such visits caught on that camera. However, the side of the house is directly next to the street, and you can drive over a small patch of grass to get onto our side driveway, out of the view of the Ring doorbell. Since learning this information, I put up a spare trail camera to cover that side of the house, and I will continue to check the video. I'm very upset that she slipped up and said he had been at our house when I wasn't home. Even if our daughter was home, she never comes out of her room. Here's my question on this: do I keep quiet on this and gather more evidence? Or do I attack it full on and let her know that I'm pissed? I have to admit, it's very difficult to keep it in, and I'm not that good at hiding what I'm feeling. When she complains that he's the only friend she has, I remind her that he's a guy. She has even said things like, I guess I need new friends, and I agree with her, saying female friends would be great. My comment: you have been getting pissed for a long time now, and your wife now knows that all she has to do is ride it out until the next time, because she knows that you are upset means no real action by you. After all, when it is between you getting pissed and giving up someone that she refers to as her only real friend, the other man wins every time. She and the other man no longer take you seriously. Your getting pissed is now nothing more than an annoyance. A beta male, weakling to a woman, would say that would be great. An alpha male, someone she respects and wants to be with, would say, I can't choose your friends for you. But I can tell you I won't stay married to a woman who thinks it's okay to be married to a man and have another man as her best friend. Do what you want, but realize I'm not going to accept it much longer, and you'll have to find another husband.